All right, guys. It's day 150. Now, if you hadn't realized, that is a pretty big milestone, if I do say so myself. Um, and yeah, I just wanted to kind of like summarize everything that I've learned in the last 150 days. Um, Speak to you guys, and yeah, first of all, it's just been a journey, man. To be honest, I made this series, kind of intending to do it for quite a while, but I never started it. And here we are, 100, day 150. And at the start of that, I didn't really know what I was doing. Like, sorry. Like, I've been working with creators for the last 5 years doing various different things. But I started this journey not really with like a plan of how I was going to get to this set goal of 10K a month. Now, it's now at day 150, and I have a plan. I have a plan. I know what I'm doing. I know I'm gonna. I know I've got to do. I know what I'm doing. I know what. Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of like give you guys an update on that, but also what I've kind of like learned from these days and what I think you guys can take away from it. First of all, I want to say that in this time I've completely started a whole new business on top of the other one I work on, and in the process have signed various different clients, and with that I've learned a ton of new skills, got better at some skills, learned new skills from zero, and it's just a constant progression, right? Because you're never going to be perfect ever with anything, and you think that you're going to be one day, and because of that you don't start because you're like, no, I could learn this thing, I could learn this thing better, I could learn this thing a bit better, and you kind of sit in that stagnant position where you never actually do anything because you always feel that bit of imposter syndrome before you do it because you haven't learned, you feel like you haven't learned enough to actually take action. And I think a lot of people get in this hole, and with that comes a lot of time wasted that you could have put towards something productive, but because you get in that hole of not knowing what to do, or knowing what to do but not actually taking action on it, you waste years and years of your life where you could have just done it and learned as you've gone, because no one in the history of time has ever started something and done it first try. Like a business that's successful, like there's always going to be fuck ups, there's always going to be failures. Every single thing that's ever been a success has had failures at some point along the line where things haven't gone great, and you have to reassess and go again. Like, it just happens, and you can't expect to learn everything under the sun for you to then go into that business venture expecting to, now that you've learned everything, you're not going to fuck up at some stage, because it's not the case in any regard with anything. So that's one thing I've learned is as much imposter syndrome as you may feel, and as much as you feel that you may need to learn before you do something, it gets to a threshold and a point of time where you just got to start, because otherwise you're just going to get stuck in a hole and you're never actually going to take action. And again, you're going to waste 2 years of your life trying to perfect something before you even start it, as opposed to starting it and perfecting it as you go. Because you're gonna get 10 times further, if not more, from just starting it, as opposed to trying to learn everything before you start. Because you're not going to learn everything before you start anyway. There's going to be things you're going to learn from going along the path that you wouldn't have learned no matter how many books you read, how many videos you watch. And a lot of the videos you watch are just mental masturbation, trying to make you feel better about yourself, making you feel like you're productive when in reality you're not. You're just wasting time. So that's one key thing that I've kind of taken, is you just need to start regardless, and you need to leave your comfort zone and do things that aren't necessarily comforting for you, because you have your habitual comfort zone, which is um, watching YouTube, watching TikTok, watching Instagram, watching Netflix, watching whatever, and that's how you fill time. Those are the moment, like when you don't have anything to do or you have a free moment, you habitually fill it with that time. And depending on the amount of time that you have available to you, depends on what you use that time to do. So if you're sat here working, you've got a 5 minute period, the average person would just go on TikTok and just scroll on TikTok for 5 minutes. If you've got a longer period of time, maybe you might put a movie on, and that's your habit. You'll just put a movie on. But the more you do it, the more like addicted you get to those things, and the more you just kind of like ingrain it as a habit. So every time you have a short break of 5 minutes or under 5 minutes, the first thing you do is you go on TikTok or you go on Instagram. If you've got a more extended break, more often than not, you might go on FIFA, you might go on Netflix, you might go on whatever. And I understand this because I've always been in this position of like, I've done all of these things, and that's why I can talk on it with such like, I don't want to say credibility, but with such like confidence, because I've been in these same holes in my life before. And you've got to understand that you wasting time, like there's so many better things in the world to enjoy than instant gratification that come with TikTok, Instagram, etc. Like I see so many posts nowadays with so many likes, stating things like life before I had a phone, or mum was right, the phone was the problem, kind of thing. And we all know inherently that our phones are bad, but because we're so reliant on them and everyone else is so reliant on them, we feel that incentive to keep going on our phones and going on social media, because if we don't, we could miss out on a message that might be important, or a message that we need to reply to relatively like abruptly to. And I do kind of see it as a problem, and it's very hard to kind of like articulate that problem to anyone that hasn't really dived into it properly, and they haven't really like comprehended it fully. Like I try and stop my sister going on stuff all the time, or I try and stop my mom or my dad or whoever. Obviously, I don't go to my like anyone out of my close family and say, well, maybe close friends, but like they just don't really see an issue with it. And I mean, there isn't really inherently that too much of an issue with it. It's just more so that you're wasting so much time that you could spend doing something else, whether it be being productive or just enjoying the fruits of life and enjoying the things that actually are available to do when living, like working to achieve a better life, achieve a better circumstance, do more with the one life that you have, or just go on a walk and appreciate where you are, appreciate beauty, or just anything that's like fun, like when we were kids. And I'm so glad I didn't get a phone until how late I got one in my life. When we were kids, we all sat and we all sat there, and whenever we had that moment of like fun that we had to fill, like a moment of peace where we had to like make something fun, we'd either go out with our friends on bikes, we'd go and play, I don't know, hide and seek, like we'd go to forest, we'd go like exploring, we'd go and do whatever, or even just at home, you'd go and play Lego, you'd go and do something like something that uses your brain. It isn't mindless. Like you do something interactive. But now it's almost like we're so habitual beings. That's how we are, and we've built the complete wrong habits into ourselves now that every moment is just kind of like disregarded, and it's just a moment to get another hit of dopamine from our phones. And with that, it makes it incredibly hard, like much harder to focus on work or what's actually going to move your life forward, because every time you have that moment of boredom from work or anxiety or stress from whatever it is that you're doing, whether it be writing or whatever, whenever it's like you don't know what to write, it's a bit uncomfortable, like an uncomfortable situation, you have discomfort doing what you're doing, our habitual solution to that is to go onto our phones, or go onto Instagram, go onto TikTok, or just go onto social media in general, because it's now our habit to do those things, which I think is sad. It truly is quite sad, but I don't think no one's going to come and save anyone. I think a sad reality is, as much as I talk about this stuff, the majority of the population aren't going to change their ways to any extent. And yeah, so that's what I wanted to say there. I just I'm very intentional with the way I use my phone and social media. I try and stay off it as much as possible. And if there's no inherent reason why I'm going on to use it, I'll catch myself and I'll try not to do it or try not to go on it. So yeah, I just try and live in the present. Really, that's the main advice you can give you from here. Is just like live in every moment that you have and realize that you're not going to get any moments back. And the amount of times I've spoken to people who are really like older, like 40, 30, 40, whatever, and they've said to me how life goes fast. Like I was playing tennis today, and someone asked me how does it feel being 21, and I was like, yeah, so much different, man. Yeah, I feel so much different. Obviously being sarcastic, and he was like, well, that's like the last like proper birthday you're gonna have for a while now. Like the next one's gonna be 30, and then it's gonna be 40, and 40 is the one where I can't remember the exact words he used, but 40 is the one where you realize like where the fuck has time gone, and you realize that like what the fuck has happened. And I think all of us know that just time goes quick. Like especially now that I've finished school and all of my days are like relatively similar. There's no like novel experiences in my life, and now that I've been alive for 21 years, time feels kind of like it's less. Time is less significant because I've had so much of it. Whereas if you're a baby and you've only been alive for a year, time is so much like more precious because you've only been alive for a year. Or let's say 5 year olds, you're 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, and you're much more conscious. A year for you is like a really long time because it's like an eighth of your life if you're 8, or a fifth of your life. Whereas now it's the 21st of our life, and it's a 40th of our life. So it's less significant, and because of that, I think like time just goes quicker, and especially if we aren't having so many novel experiences and a lot of our days are just very similar, life just kind of like goes by. And if you're not spending your time doing things that are fulfilling, or things that actually make you happy, or things that you enjoy, or just wasting your time doing things just to get you by and keep your head above the water, I just think you're wasting your life. And of course I'm 21. Of course I'm 21, so everything that I say here is going to be completely disregarded to an extent because I'm only 21. But like, what's the point of working a job that you hate for a lot for years on years on years on years on end, just to keep your head above the water, and it's somewhat comfortable that it stops you from actually taking action on doing anything else because it keeps your head above the water, and you don't want to go through the discomfort of leaving that job and trying to find a new one because you might not find a new one. Then you might not be able to pay your rent, and then all of these ifs, buts, maybes. And there's so many things that tie into this, like saving money or not spending money or investing, etc., etc., etc. But it all just stems down to like if you're spending an extended period of your life doing something that you don't enjoy to then enjoy yourself on the weekend, and by enjoy yourself you go out like drinking every weekend to just kind of like forget about your life and just kind of like watch it go by, are you really living at that point? Because in my opinion, they're not. And of course, again, I'm only 20. I haven't gone through these experiences. Like, I literally finished school 3 years ago. So, of course, my opinion is going to be flawed on this stuff. And a lot of people are going to call me naive because I'm 20 and I've never, like, lived a job. It's like, oh, it's not easy to get an easy job. It's not easy to do this. But I think if you truly wanted it and you truly wanted to do something with your life, or just at least enjoy what it is that you're doing, I think it is, like, relatively easy to achieve. And I'm not saying entrepreneurship wise. I'm just mean like just doing something that actually fulfills you, something that you're actually doing because it correlates to who you are as a person. It correlates to what you enjoy. It's going to make you enjoy your life 10 times more than just working, doing spreadsheets 5 days a week just to keep your head above water so you can pay the rent for your increased housing prices in the middle of London. Like, yes, you might be making a good sum of money, but if you're not making that good sum of money doing something you enjoy, is it worth the time that you're spending? And at the end of the day, your time is more valuable than money because money comes back and time doesn't. So yeah, it's getting deep, but it's 100. It's day 150. I feel like I should make this somewhat of a, don't want to say special episode, but just like really, really explain my points of view on these things. But yeah, I think so many of us go to school and we're just kind of like brainwashed into the way of thinking that we're going to get a job and we're going to do these things, and and you're going to need these things to be secure, and then you can pay your taxes, and then when you get to 65 you can retire, and all of these things. And I don't necessarily disagree with a job, because people, like, there's going to have to be people that do menial tasks regardless at any point in the world. And I'm not saying I'm above that, but what I am saying is I'm conscious to these things, and I'm not going to spend the next 30 years of my life working a job that I don't necessarily enjoy just to keep my head above the water, so I can fit in with the expectations that have been laid upon me by my parents, or by family, friends, and they don't want I don't want to be looked at as a failure because I was too afraid to take risks. So here I am, 21, doing all these things, and in the process learning a lot along the way, and sticking my neck out. Not sticking my neck out, but doing things that I don't know, I don't feel too qualified to do sometimes. uh like, obviously you're never going to feel like incredibly qualified to do things, but when I say incredibly qualified, I mean more so like I haven't done like so many sales calls that I feel like a salesman, like things like that, when you've got to like go on a call and do things that you haven't really done before, and you've got to learn them and learn the ropes and go through the possibility of failure and learn certain things. And but if you never try, then you're never going to learn. So you've got to try at some point. You've got to stick your neck out and do those things that are discomfort, that aren't comforting, because without doing them, you're never going to achieve failures, and without failures, you're never going to know what to not do and how to improve moving forward. So yeah, that's just kind of my perspective on these things. I've got a few notes that I wrote down and just key points that I wanted to talk about, but I think I've kind of gone over them. Yeah, I think a lot of the time people say they want to do things, but I don't know if they really truly want them. And I say that because they'll say, I want to get rich. They say, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, but they're not willing to actually do the things that equivalent, like the things that attribute to that success. To which case they say they're going to do those things, and then they try them, and then they come to the first like inconvenience or thing that they've got to sort, or the first bit of trouble, and then they just give up and don't try again. And that's why something like the lottery and gambling is so marketable, because the majority of people, they want to get stuff quickly. And the problem with getting stuff quickly is if everyone could get it, then it wouldn't be valuable. So they sell you the dream, and in turn the majority of people feel inclined to go and buy those things, and in the process lose a lot of money to the establishment's gain, or the company's gain. And they just kind of like feed off of the fact that people want everything quick and they want it now, because everyone does. I mean, no one would say no to anything quick and now, but sadly it's not how the world works. And I think it's more so that stuff comes with time, and you've got to learn the ropes. Now, some are going to be quicker than others, but like it's very rare to find something that's incredibly fast to make you money. I think it's there's a lot of ways to make money, but the process of which isn't like click your fingers and it's there. There's a process of learning. There's a process of educating yourself. There's a process of failures. There's a process of wins, but the majority being failures, and then learning and not giving up and going again and going again and going again and going again. And that's how you're going to get to where you want to get to. So yeah, if everything was easy and quick, then it wouldn't be valuable because everyone would have it. So the reason these things that we all aspire to have, whether they be cars, houses, holidays, lifestyle, they're valuable because not everyone has them. If everyone had an Aston Martin, no one's going to want an Aston Martin. They'd want something else. So it's that status that comes from money, as well as just the lifestyle as well, and people want it as easily as possible. And you've got to understand, I think, because I'm coming to terms with it, that as much as you might think that you're going to do everything quickly and try and do all these things incredibly fast, it doesn't as much work like that, as much as you think it might do. And you try and live each day stressing that you're going to go 100% every day, working 16-hour days every single day, every day to achieve something, when yes, it might work, but it's not feasible in your current position. You haven't learned, you haven't become the person that can do those things. You haven't become the person that can work for hours. You haven't become the person who can do menial tasks all day with a delayed outcome, an outcome that isn't like instant, and no guaranteed outcome as well. So you just got to show up every day and use your time intentionally and do things intentionally. And by intentionally, I mean when you have a gap in your time, not habitually going on your phone and scrolling through Instagram or scrolling through Facebook or scrolling through anything. Like, I don't use Facebook, but I know a lot of people have habits. Like, everyone has habits. I think I like when I have a gap, as opposed to when I have a gap in time, as opposed to going on my phone. I don't actually have my phone on my desk when I'm working. I have it like downstairs or on my bed or whatever, and I try and just get up and just walk around or just do something aimlessly, just anything that isn't instantly gratifying tasks. And I'm not perfect to any regard. I'm not perfect. Never, like, I'm never going to be perfect, and no one ever is going to be perfect. But the more you can understand these things and comprehend like how much of an issue they truly are, I think the more the easier it is for you to live your life with intention. There's a lot of things that go into it on how to like build habits, how to get rid of habits, and what to spend your time doing. But I guess it's just down to each individual person. Like, there's a lot of tasks that I can do at the moment. I've got working on the current stuff that I'm working on, or the task of learning French, or the task of doing all of these different things. And don't get me wrong, I would love to sit there and do task after task after task. But in the current position I'm in, with the current like person I am, the identity that I have within myself, although it might just sound like I'm just projecting a lie, I'm not the kind of person who's able to sit there for 16 hours doing menial, boring tasks all day. Like, I need some stimulant, and I think everyone does, and I think everyone that tells you that they haven't done that is lying to an extent. I don't disagree that they've spent 16-hour days doing stuff, but to do it every single day with minimal contact to the outside world, doing minimal activity, or I just don't think is feasible. So don't be so hard on yourself, because most of the people that you see that are successful, they will have put days in like that, but the majority of their time won't have been what they say they are. And also, another thing with that is, everyone that you see online is a success story. You're not going to see failures. You're not going to see people failing on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube, etc. You're not going to see them failing because they, like, why would that get views? You know, you only see the wins. So it might look like everyone's succeeding, but but it's just because the algorithm pushes successes and pushes the things that people engage with. And understand that majority of people are like not necessarily failing, because failing is a good thing, and you've got to learn from it as long as you don't give up. But I think failing is a good thing, and you've got to embrace it, and you've got to kind of like almost reach for it and almost try to fail, because without it you're never going to get anywhere. You know, so failure is going to come up at some point, and you've got to be incredibly big-headed to think that along your journey you're never going to have any failures, because anyone that you can ever think that has ever been successful has had failures along the way, and then they dealt with them when they came. But a lot of people, they try and fix problems before they arise, and in which so doing they sit there in a hole of perfectionism and never try anything, because stuff could happen, or this could happen, or that could happen, and they try and fix them before they arise. And that's why no one ever starts, and that's why a lot of people say they're going to do things that never actually do them. And it's much easier to say that you're going to do things than actually execute on them and achieve them. So that's why so many people have dreams, but sadly so many people don't achieve them, because there's a lot of work and a lot of discipline and things that you've got to learn along the way to actually bring them into fruition. So Yeah, but that's my deep conversation for the day. That's day 150. I think I've gone over a few things there. It was a very broad topic, but I think it's everything that's just kind of like tied into my journey and things that I've learned along the way, and just understanding that I'm never going to be perfect and never fully be educated on what it is that I want to be educated on, and no one ever is. But you can try your best to get as close to that goal of, I don't know, being fully educated on something as you can. And it's all about using your time intentionally and doing the right things. And yeah, but as I said yesterday, enjoy the moment that you're in, because I'll say this, and I'll try and keep it as brief as possible. Enjoy the moment that you're in, because you're never going to be in this specific moment again. And I know that sounds very, very like, what's the word? Very, I don't know, minimal. Like it's got minimal care to it. It doesn't really matter. But if you put it, most people, I know a lot of you guys talking like me, you wait until everything's perfect before you truly live. And in doing so, you miss out on every moment that you currently have, whether it be your dog, whether it be your parents, whether it be like being able to speak to them, whether it be going on walks, whether it be doing all of these different things. It's so easy to disregard these things at the hopes of a better future, because when you achieve these certain things, you're gonna be able to live that, right? Like when you achieve this goal, yeah, then I'll be able to live better. Then I'll be able to achieve these. Then I'll be happy. I'll be able to do all these things. But right now, I shouldn't be happy because I haven't achieved these goals. And yes, I guess it's kind of a good mindset to be in, because then you're actually going to put the work in. But on the other hand, with that being said, when you actually get to that quote unquote goal, accomplish a thing that you want to accomplish, you're never going to be content, because you're always going to want more. You know, I said yesterday, this is an analogy I used. You think of the kids in Africa and stuff that don't have much money. If you were to get them and put them in the position that you're in right now, you might not have much money. You might not be doing so many things that you want to be doing, but you've currently got a roof over your head. You get food on the table. You've got education. You've got a job. You've got all these things. Anyone in Africa would die for the current position you're in. They would die for it. And when they got it, they'd be like, holy shit, oh my God, I've got all these things. But after a certain amount of time, they get comfortable with those things, and then they're going to want more. So what's the difference between an African person and then you and your success that you want to achieve? You know, like when you get that success, you're not going to be fulfilled then. You're still going to be waiting to live at that point, because you're always going to want more. So I think it's just in our human nature to want more. Maybe it's just like a guy thing that we always want to be able to provide an extended amount of things, and just want to be respected and provide, or give back, or whatever it is. Which, of course, that's kind of like how I kind of work mentally, but also, yeah, it's very easy just to get tied up in that mental state of wanting more and waiting until your life is perfect, until you can live, and then in the process disregarding every moment that you have right now. And I learned this a lot, like with a load of different things. But if I'm to encapsulate it into one thing that it fully hit me from. I wrote a newsletter on this a while back. You can subscribe at the top of the description, shameless plug. But it was the movie Soul, Soul. It's a Disney movie. Yeah, call me whatever for watching a Disney movie, an animated Disney movie from past the year 2016. So they're all woke, but I wouldn't really say it's much a very woke movie. It's quite a nice movie, honestly, and it really kind of like encapsulated this whole like live in the moment and kind of enjoy what we have right now, because you don't know what life's going to be like when you actually do achieve those things, and you're always going to want more. Like it might not be what it was set out to be when you achieve that thing. So if you want to go and check that newsletter blog post out, you can do so in the description. You can do that on my Medium page. If you go to Medium, if you go to blog, I think it's the blog link. If you go to blog, it's my Medium page. You can see it's the pinned one. Probably my favorite newsletter blog to date. But yeah, don't disregard the moments that you have right now in the hopes of a better future, because even your future, you're gonna want more. So just live in the moment and do what you can in each moment and go from there. So day 150, still bringing everything into fruition. It's going well, and yeah, I've got a lot to be grateful for, and we keep moving forward, boys. So thank you for watching the video, and yeah, I'll see you tomorrow night for day 151. Oh, man. All right. See you tomorrow for day 151. Cheers, boys. Good night.